from Switzerland. We are about to witness the loser final bracket between Lausanne Sport and Servette Geneva Esports. And this time around, right to my left, I have my co-caster for the game, which is none other than Atlas, who casted with me in the 3-game show qualifier. How are you doing, man?
I'm still, yeah, I just woke up an hour ago, so I'm still on my top form, but I'm still excited to be here right now.
Yeah, it surely is a bit of a different atmosphere than last time around, since we're live from Lausanne now, so you guys at home might hear some background noise. Let us know about that. Also let us know how the sound volume and all that stuff is. So yeah, we got ourselves a best of 5 going. If you didn't see, Servette Geneva Esports dropped out of the winner bracket versus SPG with a rather convincing 3-0. Our first map's gonna be Kings Row, and yeah, Lux is back in town. You think he can put Geneva on his backs again, or what's about to happen here?
I definitely think Geneva isn't quite Geneva without Lux at this point. I mean, he is really an X factor for this lineup. As I already mentioned on like the ZTS and GGC qualifiers, it's just Geneva has this kind of playset that they rely on their star players to really perform, and I think if they don't have Lux in the core lineup, then it could be quite troublesome. And I mean, in the game against SPG, as far as I've heard, Lux actually played with 60 Hz, is that correct?
Yeah, like he wasn't in a setup and still he managed to do some stuff. So yeah, we're gonna see Lux like he has all the setup now, so no no more excuses. He has to step it up pretty much for Lausanne and for Geneva, excuse me. And you know, we already see AZ is back on Mercy, like they kept that on, so let's see if that works for them as we are about to jump into the game. So what's your prediction for this? How will this roll out?
Well, usually I would go with Geneva at this point, since they're convincing comeback from the ZGS qualifiers, but I think this is a whole different atmosphere right here, because I've heard some internal issues with Geneva at this point due to how the games went, so I would actually go with Lausanne here.
Yeah, and things are already getting started off as Nazir gets his first opening kill, but Torx negates that with a res. But you can see Geneva already going really aggressive, since they know they have that res advantage, but maybe a little bit too aggressive as half falls down. But look at Nadir, he's really doing some work over there in the hotel. Now Lux joins them and they just are fragging out there, and this surely is going to be the first point for them.
I mean, this is exactly the start Geneva needed. Nadir and Lux, their star DPS player, getting some nice frags right there. It's really going to boost their confidence right there.
I mean, isn't that something Lausanne should have expected? I mean, Nadir is always going through that hotel with Hanzo on, yet it still seems to work out, right?
I mean, it is really expected that Nadir will go through there. I mean, it already happened against the other teams, that has happened on the ZGS qualifier, so I don't really know what Lausanne was expecting, or if they just weren't prepared.
So let's see, as we go into the streets phase here, Nadir has his Dragon Strike up, and I'm pretty sure he's going to use it right about now, as you can see. Lausanne, though, is able to disengage, and here we see 2 shadows coming down from both sides. I think Shapiv kind of gets the upper hand with that, and Kiba and Nerfs are back in action, but Nerfs getting taken down immediately by Nadir, and just look at the kill feed. It's Lux and Nadir all over again.
I mean, right now, this is the Lux and Nadir show. They're getting so many frags, it is insane. I mean, like, they're hardly ever contested. I mean, this Hans and this McCree are just so free at the moment.
Yeah, so well, let's see what they can do with that. So we're right about the second checkpoint, and you see Lux being pocketed by AZ on that Mercy and gets that opener kill. And again, Nadir just follows it up with Narga, and here we see 2 Gravitons. Nerfs using the barrage for 1 kill. Well, it's a back and forth right now. You see AZ coming in with the rest, and Nea follows the whole thing up with a kill on Shapiv. And this is again a fight in favor of Servette Geneva Esports.
So yeah, the fight always seemed to go back and forth a bit at the beginning, but it just seems like Geneva has driving force right here. They can just find those picks a lot faster than Lausanne is able to.
Yeah, and you can see Lausanne is, I don't know what's going on with them, because they're just getting steamrolled with another dragon, and Health has his shatter up again as well, so this means we're already at the last point with nearly 5 minutes left, and if Health is able to put them down onto the ground, this could be a really good show here. And we see Rageki getting his visor up with a sound barrier, but a really smart disengage here from Geneva Esports. Neof starting off things with the first pick, but Kiba returns the favor. And now we hear a high down from none other than Lux, and he finds the kill onto Kiba. Number adventures is in favor of Servette, and look at this, the shatter being blocked expertly by Health here. He uses his own shatter, but it gets blocked as well by Japiv, and that block enables his whole team to rush over Geneva Esports, and they stabilize for now.
So yeah, Lausanne was able to stabilize right there, but the thing is that too little, too late. I mean, 4 minutes left, and they're already pretty much at the end.
And also look at the ultimates coming up here from Geneva Esports. If that graph is gonna land with the follow-up from Nadir, that could be devastating. So all eyes are on Kiva, the player on Diva from Lausanne Esports here, as he needs to pretty much soak up that graph, but he doesn't get the growth up. But the graph can only catch one target, and here comes a bump from Kiba, not finding any kills this time around. But look at Nadir. Nadir, he's just finding one pick after another and doing so much pressure with his DPS to Lux together, and demacking Diva here, and Lux finishes her off as Nadir gets the kills onto Mercy and onto the Reinhardt. And I think this is already it. With 3 minutes left, they push through.
This is definitely not a result I expected going into the start of the series in this first map. So I have heard from Geneva, or is that from you, that they have some internal problems, and Lausanne has looked a lot more convincing in tournaments so far, so I really didn't expect him to get this close.
So I'm just adjusting the sound stuff here since we're on. This is a bit, you know, all about finding the right thing. All the noise in the background, trying to make sure that Atlas is also loud enough, obviously, so I'll readjust his volume now. So let me know if it's better now, if I need to adjust it again. And yeah, we have 3 minutes left for Geneva. That looked like really convincing. Like maybe they could reset their whole mindset there, I don't know, but what do we need to see from Lausanne Esports now? What do they need to make the same things happen as Geneva just did?
Well, what we definitely need to see is the DPS, Nurse and Rageki stepping up, because this whole defense, I never really see them do major picks or major plays. I mean, Nurse was just so pressured by Lux, he couldn't really do anything, and Rageki just seemed a bit lost against this hard push from Geneva.
Yeah, and I can totally agree with you on that. Like they seem to be lost, like they're just not ready yet, you know. Maybe the delay put some strain onto the Nurse, so let's see how they can do it, as we see Nurse yet again onto that Pharah. Not finding really any opening right now though, and needs to hide behind the statue immediately. We see Lausanne taking a rather slow approach. I'd imagine them to break the shield first and then try to push onto the point. As you see, Shapiv now moving forward, open things up with a nice fire strike, and Kiba follows that with a kill on Nadir. Nerf adds Nerf on top of that, and that looks already way better.
So again, this is not something I expected. Lausanne seemed really lost on the defense, and now they look so much more convincing on offense. It just seems like the teams this morning are not really ready to defend on the map. They're more like, let's go full aggressive, win the offense, and then let's see what we can do on defense.
Yeah, and the stream seems to be better now. As we go into that street phase, you can hear Nadir with the Riptire. Let's see. He finds one kill. That's quite decent for him. And Lux is up into the window using his visor, but he doesn't find any kills with it. In the meantime, Rageki finds 2 with his own visor, and it looks really convincing right now from the sides of Servette. And look at that shatter by Alf. 4-man down on the payload, and just as I was saying, convincing by the sides of Lausanne Esports, it's convincing by the sides from Geneva Esports.
And this is the point that could really decide the game right here. I mean, Lausanne looked really convincing on their offense, but Geneva looked even more convincing on their defense, so I mean, they can stabilize a lot faster than Lausanne. I mean, Lausanne only just could stabilize in the last spot.
Graviton Surge coming up, getting countered, but that is Yatta ult. And now the Graviton Surge from the side of Lausanne coming up, but also gets countered by the side of the Zenyatta ult. And the big Earth Shatter was coming down, but not finding enough as Nurse tried to use this barrage to an advantage, but got shot down immediately. And now it's a killing back and forth. Both teams left with 4 players here as both soldiers find another opening, and Lux has the advantage right now, has to hide here. And look at this. This is a soldier 1v1, but I'm not sure if Lux can stay here. Yeah, he needs to back off and get shot down.
I'm really not a fan of Nerf's actually staying on Pharah. I mean, Lux is doing so much work and he's not getting that much values out of his barrages. He's really having a hard time finding those flank barrages or those huge impact kills, so... But I really don't know what else he could pick right here. I mean, he's most famous for his Pharah.
Yeah, and we have both visors coming up as we Lux on the high ground, getting the opener kill on the Pharah, as I just said. And now Turks needs to be really careful. He gets shot down with the help of Nadir, and those are 3 kills already for the side of Geneva Esports, and I think they stabilized right in front of that crucial checkpoint. So what do you think? How does Lausanne need to approach this? This is a really hard checkpoint. I mean, look how far they're spawning back, right?
Yes, I think with this comp they're gonna have a really hard time. I mean, they are pretty static there. They still have Zenyatta, they have Ryan, Saria, and they don't really have something to contest high ground except for Nerves, but can't really do much if he gets pressured constantly by Lux, who isn't contested by a Diva or a Monkey.
Oh, what a great air shatter block. Let's see if Japif can return the favor and block the shatter from health coming up. He doesn't even need to, because he just killed him straight up. Graviton Surge coming up, 2 kills found already. The tire gets shot down by Kiba, and now Torx coming up with the double rest. Both Transcendents popped at the same time. Keep in mind, Health still has a shatter, and just as I said it, he uses it, takes Kiba on the ground, but no real follow-up. As Lausanne Esports can use their own grants and 4 people into it. Nerf's using his barrage to follow it up, but Rageki nearly killed everyone already with that Helix rocket, and they can make sure that they get the checkpoint with 3.5 minutes left.
This is really something we want to see if you're a fan of Lausanne Esports. That the kill fit is all blues with Rageki in there, popping up there. This is exactly what I mentioned before. If they step up, this could be an even fight. If not, this is gonna be pretty dire for them.
And now we see both soldiers having the visor up, but here in that phase, as they pop it simultaneously, it's hard to find kills because Reinhardt can just shield that so easily, and both visors used, but no real follow-up, no kills happening. And look at Chapiv as he finds the big Earth Shatter, 3 men down on the ground. He uses Hammer to finish them off with the help of his tank buddy right here, and this looks suddenly convincing from Lausanne.
Yes, definitely, and you just think it's the same story. Like, they're both really good at being aggressive, getting those picks, but they don't really seem to have an answer yet on how to stop this, how to counter this on defense, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see it right here. The offense is just doing so many picks, and there's not a real answer to that. It's just either side is just winning a fight clearly. There's no a real comeback in a fight. It's just really decisive when one fight happens. And Lausanne not quite as much time as Geneva, but still 2.5 minutes, quite a decent time for King's Row.
And I would actually like to see some more adaptations. I mean, there have been so many situations where a team was clear at a disadvantage due to the architecture of the map they're currently in, like the street phase or the last phase where both soldiers had ult up, but they really didn't play around that. They just used the ults with the Ryan shield still up, and they didn't really have any impact with the ults. It was more to deter the enemy, but they didn't get much value out of it.
Yeah, so do you think they will end up doing adaptations, or will they run just the same thing because they feel like they're comfortable on it?
I would actually like to see a curveball, like maybe nerfs going Doomfist or Genji. This could be interesting because Gio was expecting the Pharah and they're fully prepared for it, as it seems. But maybe he can channel some inner strength to pull through, avoid Lux with his insane aim.
So just a reminder for people just tuning in, Lux was not playing so far at the Geneva, at the Switzerland here, but the hitscan player that they played with, Pyranal, is so sick that Lux just spontaneously came here to stand in, and here he is right now as we see Lausanne Esport with their second take on attack approaching the point. No real changes made right now, same comp also from the side from Geneva Esports, and now you can see both teams testing the waters again. As Geneva Esports opens up things with 2 kills, and this is probably going to be a reset from the sides of Lausanne Esports.
And both teams are just playing their standard compositions, and it just seems like to me that Geneva already has an answer to what Lausanne is running and what Lausanne's battle plan is, but not so for Lausanne against Geneva. So let's see if they're just going to try to find out in those last 1.5 minutes, or if they're going to switch up.
Yeah, and we see Nadir having his tire up, using it already, going to the back, but it gets taken out by Nerfs. And we have a Gravity Surge coming up for Kiba, but they don't have the chance to use it so far. Now he looks with the tactical visor. Let's see if he can find himself some kills. Got himself 1, got himself 2. Axon uses the Transcendence maybe a bit too eagerly right here, as there are still Graviton Surges coming up, and now we need to see Geneva kind of pushing back together on point, regain their position, and now here a tactical visor from Raigeki here on the high ground, uncontested, gets protected by that sound barrier. Now the big Graviton Surge here wipes out Geneva entirely, and that's exactly what we talked about. They don't have the answer to those Graviton Surges.
Yeah, I just really loved the play that Lausanne did right there. They used Raigeki on the high ground to force Geneva off the spot into the arch behind the Rhine shield, and so they were all grouped up for Kiba to just launch Graviton in there and get a 6-man grab right there.
And now the overtime is gonna be a thing pretty soon. We have 15 seconds left. Every meter is gonna count here for Lausanne Esports, and we see the Graviton Surge is still being up. I'd expect them to wait right until they leave that choke, and Graviton Surge any moment right now. Graviton Surge is coming, there is a 4-man grab. Look at the Riptide coming, 3 kills yet again from Nadir on that jungle. He's just playing amazingly on that hero, and he follows it up with 2 more kills, so he nearly wiped out the entire team.
Yeah, for this to have gone Lausanne's way, JP would have had to get a huge shatter, including Nadir, but it would have been almost impossible since Nadir was around the corner and Health was playing just so smart with his own Rhine shield, so well done by Geneva right there.
So right now we see it, the golden marker. Geneva, this is where they need to get, and is this something that's doable on King's Row, or would you expect Lausanne to hold them fully on the first point right now?
This is definitely doable from both sides, but I just believe that if you lose the first spot and the enemy team, in this case Geneva, still has around 1.5 minutes left, and with the momentum they currently have, they will just probably rush through the arch without any contest.
So you talked about the curveball. Is this the curveball you would expect from Geneva right now? With Lux being on the Widowmaker?
Yes, definitely. I love to watch Lux play his Widowmaker. He has some insane impact. Like, if he has some insane impact kills on Lux, it's just a joy to watch. And a lot of people don't expect it. And you really have to watch out for him. Because if he gets those picks and if he hits his shots, then it's really a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, we have seen it at the third game show qualifier. He opened things up on Junkerton quite insanely, and he does right here, staying onto the Widowmaker, finding already the first opening shot. Nothing too crucial yet though. And Nadir also changed things up. No more Hanzo, but he's onto that trace now. Look at Lux, first shot, first kill here under the point. He's just uncontested right now. And Geneva needs to find a way to contest the guy because they're all trapped in that corner right there. Like, what are they even gonna do right here? Look at Geneva. They're just taking the point, and Lux is free to do whatever he does. He's even chilling right now onto the point. Gets into the window now, so he's right on the left of your screen, fully uncontested. And I think Lausanne Esports wasn't prepared for this.
Yes, this is Geneva's game to win right here because they fully expected Lausanne to just run a standard comp, a standard stationary comp without any heroes to contest the high ground, and Geneva realized that and just put Lux on Widowmaker, and as you could see, he had huge impact right there. Yeah, that's the whole story.
I don't think Lausanne is even gonna make it onto the payload because the fun is just wait for way, and just say that the round is finished and Geneva Esports takes the first round rather convincingly with that curveball with Lux onto the Widow. So there's that, and well, I think we can summarize it down that Nadir and Lux, they were just straight up on point, like the last 4 games in SecGas qualifier, like as if this was like continuation from that. And how does Lausanne have to shut them down? Like, what's a good way of shutting down a Lux and Nadir?
Well, in the case of Lux, I think they just have to hard focus him, like throw him a curveball, maybe go full dive, because right now he just has so much space, and you could see in these games and the recent games with Lux, like if he has space, he's gonna do some serious damage to the enemy team. You really have to put the pressure on him, or else you're gonna have a really bad time.
Yeah, and first map, a rather classic King's Row. And we all know how good Geneva Esports is on that map. It's like a map that favors them, favors their playstyle. They can play some Hanzo, they can play some Junkrat. We've seen Lux can bring out that Widowmaker if he needs to. And now the second map coming up is Lijiang Tower. For people watching, this is not Apex system here at Lausanne. We're playing map draft, so the teams could pick and ban maps. And Lijiang Tower, is that a map that will favor Nurse and is Farah, or is it a map that Geneva can excel on again? What's your take on this?
Well, I'm really torn on this, because on one side, if Lux is again as on point as he has been on King's Row, and he's not contested at all, this is gonna be a straight on Geneva 2-0. But I really hope that Lausanne realize their mistakes on King's Row, and they think like, hey, maybe let's go full dive, let's just focus Lux down, create so much space for our team, and just deny them so much space that they don't have a chance to contest Nerf, so that he has the space to contest Lux and Geneva.
Yeah, I totally agree, and you can hear it right now. There is like a speaker stuff going on here at Lausanne. Maybe it's a bit distracting, but it should be gone any moment soon. And the teams are just about to be ready. As Lux mentions that 144 Hz and sound helps quite a lot for playing, and I have to agree. Like I've seen him playing versus SPG. You know, it was still decent, but you could see like it's just something is missing for him. And now he seems like he's flipped the switch. He's ready to go. We are ready to go, and we're just about to jump into Lijiang Tower. So you think that first round here is pretty much gonna define the series all over, or what do you think will happen here, and what's the influence it will have on the whole series as well?
But for me personally, there are 2 ways this can go right now. One way is that Lausanne would throw a curveball or just do something different than their standard composition, and just try to get into the minds of Geneva, try to outplay them and not just play their own game. On the other hand, I also think that Geneva are really this team that think, hey, we have this composition, we know how it works, we know how to counter enemy teams with it, and they're just gonna try to brute force their way through with their tried and tested composition. But I'm not really a fan of the second option. I really want to see that curveball. I really want to see them throw something at Geneva that is really unexpected for them to get that psychological advantage. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we already have some adaptations to the map. We see Nurse onto that Junkrat. We've played ourselves versus him at the tournament, and he was playing quite good exactly on this map. So you think he can overcome the power of Nadir that he is on his own Junkrat, or what's gonna happen right here?
Well, it's all about the tanks creating space right here, because if Nadir has such a space and Nurse doesn't have, it's a pretty one-sided battle. So.
And right here, you just mentioned it, space. Look at how Health and his tank mate is moving, and he's pushing the order lineup all the way into that little narrow path, and this makes it way easier for Nadir to handle things. And Nadir even flanking around on the left side, you can see him onto the point. Lausanne really scattered now, and Geneva is taking real advantage of that, as Shapiv is trying to just survive, but he's mangled into the corner and it's just about to jump off the map. That already looked so convincing from the side of Geneva.
Yeah, that is the point I wanted to make. Like, if both teams have equal space, then playing Junkrat isn't that much about mechanical skill. It's just about that lucky bomb connecting with the enemy, or that lucky concussion blast or concussion mine. But at that point, yeah, like Geneva had just so much space, and he could do whatever he wanted, and the Nurse was really put in the corner.
Oh, what a beautiful setup that you just talk about how Junkrat is working on that map. And those were fast ultimates. We're only like 20% into the game, and they still have 2 to 4 maps, so Geneva really looks convincing here to me.
Yeah, they really want to show Lausanne that they are the superior team right here. They really had some beef in the past, so they really want to cement their victory from ZGS and not just say this was a lucky reverse sweep. They want to show that they are skill-wise and strategy-wise the superior team.
Yeah, but look at Lausanne, they are trying to return the favor as we hear the High Noon being channeled, but Lux is getting shut down, and now it's a one-man advantage for Lausanne. But Nadir, that guy already has a tire up again, this time though not finding any kills. Beat drop coming out from the side of Lausanne, really big shatter block there by Health, but the tire is gonna take him out, and now there's a number advantage. But look at Health, he's being rested by AD, maybe he has the chance to turn the fight around with his own shatter. Let's see if he can do that, but no, he's getting taken out yet again, and now it's only 3 more people left for Servette Esports to make it 2, as Lux and AZ are the last one living, but that's not gonna be enough, and the point is being locked for Lausanne, 81% for Geneva.
Yeah, Lausanne really has to play very smart now, not allow any mistakes, not even small mistakes, and just as I said that, this happened, so
now this is a one-man advantage, and Grats and Search onto the team of Geneva is coming, and they find some kills. AZ is rezzing it out, and Lux is just on the side finding himself kills. Nadir with that Riptide, 2 kills for him, and now it's only Japiv left into the point, and I think Geneva Esports is gonna take it from here, and 83% we're now at. That's gonna be the last fight for Lausanne if they don't win it.
Yeah, I really don't know what Lausanne was expecting or not expecting at this point. I mean, Lux is known for his flanking playstyle and for his extreme flanking playstyle, as we just saw there, but
look at the position from Lux. He's walking up the high ground. He's gonna pop that High Noon anytime soon, and the Grants and Search is coming out. Oh, and he's dropping down. 2 kills already for the opener. Tactical eyes are coming out from the side of Lausanne Esports with Raigeki. No kills found yet, but now suddenly Raigeki and Nurse have themselves 3, but AZ rests Lux, and the rest of Geneva Esports just seals the deal as they take the first point on Lijiang Tower.
yeah, and Lausanne did do some switches with Nurse being on Junkrat, but that was probably more because of the map and not because of the recent results. And I really want to see Lausanne switching things up, because at this point Geneva just know fully what Lausanne is doing, what the battle plan is, and they're just gonna counter it. It's sort of like a, if Lausanne does this, we're gonna do this. If Lausanne move there, we're gonna move there. Like, they know what to do 1-to-1 when Lausanne is engaging, and that is the downfall for Lausanne right now.
Yeah, it seems like they're just having a checklist that they can cross stuff through, and Lausanne doesn't seem to have that one. But now we see some changes from the side of Geneva Esports. They're adapting and they're going with the dive comp and looks onto Soldier. So what is going to happen right here?
I think this is so smart from Geneva. Instead of saying, hey, what worked first round, we're gonna do it again on second round, they're saying like, Nurse is gonna go for the Pharah, so let's go Diva to counter him. So they're just always one step ahead of Geneva right now, and this is really a tough thing for Lausanne.
Oh. We're back onto the point here. As you see, Japif just trying to scratch the inch of the point to contest it, but the first kill is found from the side of Geneva, and they even taking the point in the process, and now everything is just falling apart for the side of Lausanne Esports. And look at Nadir, he has already his barrage up and ready to go.
The composition that Geneva is running right now, this is exactly what I wanted Lausanne to run. But as it looks like, we're not going to see it. They're just so adamant about using their comp, saying, we know this comp works, we know we're best with this comp, so let's just stick with it, even if we get hard countered. And I'm really not a fan of what Lausanne is doing right now.
Barrage coming up from here, he opened things up with 2 security, he'll add a wall run onto it. Rageki now on the high ground has his visor used, but it's just not enough. He's getting taken out by Lux, and that's another fight that goes into favor of Geneva. And look at what they've invested, like barely anything. It's just the ultimate from Nadir.
Yeah, Geneva really paid attention to the results and their experience from the ZGS qualifier.
Oh, what a great opener.
That is beautiful. As I want to say, like before I said, this series will be decided by Lux and Nadir getting those key impact, but at this point it's just Geneva fully reading Lausanne like an open book, and Lausanne doesn't have an answer to this. It is just so hard to watch right now.
And we're approaching that crucial 80% mark, as it's going to be the last fight happening soon if Lausanne doesn't manage to win a fight. And look how smartly Geneva plays that. They're putting Lux onto that high ground, and I'd imagine them to let Lausanne push out with an opening pick already. Lux has his visor ready. We hear the Graviton coming out, Visor coming out at the same time. No kills found for either team so far, as Kiba finally opened things up. But look at Nurse, he used his barrage, but he takes himself out with his own barrage, and now it's a 4v4 onto the point, as it's a little bit back and forth. Shatter is getting blocked by that monkey bubble, Health getting pinned by Shapif, but I don't think he's taken out yet so far. Now finally falls, and it's only Neve left onto the point now. And Nadir follows him up with the barrage. 2 kills found with it, and suddenly it could be turned again into the favor of sides of Geneva. It looks like a back and forth as Lux is coming even in from that main gate, but Nerves takes him down as he makes his return as well. And now I think this is the point where Lausanne finally can stabilize. But just as I say that, 1 kill by Axon and Lux and 2 rests by AZ, this looks like Geneva might be in the driver's seat again, and yes they are. They are taking the map. This is 2-0 for Geneva.
This is so tough to watch right now, because at the start of the series I thought like Geneva were kind of in a corner with their mental strength, with their mental attitude at the moment from what I've heard, but at this point I think it's quite the opposite. Lausanne is actually the team that looks mentally strained, that looks like they don't have an answer, because I've seen so many mistakes that shouldn't happen on this high level play. I mean, Shapif fully shadowed into the bubble, Nurse killing himself with his own barrage. That is, yeah, and 38% hero damage from a single person. That is just insane. It just shows Nadir had so much space. He wasn't barely contested them at all. I mean, they only ran a flank, they only ran Tracer on, I think it was Kiba, when they wanted to get like just extra percentages to contest the spot, but not as a key hero to pick. They always are adamant about getting, let's get a projectile hero, let's get a hit scan, we're gonna run this, we're always gonna run this, no matter what the enemy picks. And I don't know, at this point, I'm just repeating myself over and over. It's just, Lausanne has to switch things up, or else this is gonna be done.
Yeah, and we talked about Geneva, that their key players are like Lux and Nadir, and we really have to give props to the whole team right now, as you mentioned, because the whole team of Servette is enabling them so well with good setups, with creating space. I mean, we've seen Health and I think Neve pushing out in that corridor. You saw how Shapiv and Kiba, they were immediately forced back. They weren't ready for that aggressiveness, and created so much space, and Nadir was just using it exceptionally and found himself kills. And I don't know what is going through Lausanne's mind. It's like they're frozen, you know. It's like they don't know how to handle this aggressiveness or this playstyle. And now we're going up to Root, and Root is a map we didn't see for quite some time, and the recent tournaments, it's fallen out of favor here, and I don't know which of these teams is favored with this map. So what do you think is going to happen here?
I think Nerves could do some work on his Pharaoh if he gets enabled, if he gets those lucky angles, but to be honest, I just believe that Geneva is gonna run something crazy right here, maybe go for a sneaky Sombra pick, go for a sneaky Bastion or something, and just again throw a huge curveball to Lausanne, because I don't think Lausanne is gonna do anything of that sort. They're just gonna say, hey, Pharaoh works on this map, we're gonna put Raigeki on Soldier, let him flank a bit, let Nerves get air superiority, but I don't think this is enough. They really have to have a concrete plan, or else this is over.
Now, we have seen Lux on Widowmaker before, and we have seen players play Widowmaker on this map before as well. So you think Lux is gonna take a shot on the Widowmaker here onto attack?
I would love to see that, because always enjoy to watch those nice grapple plays on Route 66, especially on that pillar on the right we see right here. And yeah.
Yeah, and as we see the first 3 tier of Route 66, it seems like Lausanne Esports has woken up. I mean, look at their team comp. This is their defensive team comp, by the way, from watching. They're starting off in defense, so what is going to happen here, since we also see Lux is ready to go for the Widowmaker? How does Lausanne need to play this? So you've talked about this pillar here, so what does Lausanne have to expect? Where will Lux walk through? What is his pathing gonna be like? How are they gonna counter it here?
So there are 2 ways the Widow can move right here. He can either go up towards the left, near the bridge, try to aim there, try to go for a safe playstyle, or go right, go a bit more aggressive, put himself at risk with the grapple shots, but I think it could really pay off if he finds a nice angle, because at this point we have Chapiv on the monkey, and if he doesn't react fast enough, or if he doesn't realize that Lux is on the Widow and doesn't have a bubble down, Lux can just find a free kill in the first few seconds of the game.
Yeah, and we see now Geneva Esports is running their dive comp from before again, just with Lux onto that Widow as addition. And look at Lux, he immediately is being pressured this time around. He's even being forced to his own spawn, and Lausanne Esports suddenly looks really convincing. They're playing this like the old SPG used to play, Route 66, really aggressive up front here. But they need to be careful, because a Widowmaker is a really good counter to such kind of aggressive threat, right?
Yeah, but I really love what Lausanne is doing right now. They are really showing that they're not done yet. They still have the ace up their sleeve, so...
Oh, look at Raigeki. You talked about his flankings before, and maybe that was just a bit too much flanking here as he gets taken down by Geneva Esports. And now they're just trying to fight on the payload, find themselves some target to kill, stall it out as long as possible, but that's more about this. This is not about Lausanne winning this fight anymore. They want to gain as much time and make sure they have a second fight here.
I mean, they just achieved that with the first fight, but I think after the first fight was won in Lausanne's favor, they should have backed up a bit more, because we could see Raigeki was out of position, got picked, Lausanne was at disadvantage, and that cost them the fight, the second fight, so...
Yeah, we have a Diva ult coming up here. Maybe it's gonna be a huge one, and he's taken down the Mercy. That would be a key pick to do here. And look at Lausanne, they're trying to get that high ground here before the payload is pushed too far out. Look at the bomb coming out. The bomb is getting blocked mostly by the monkey bubble. It's a 4v4 right now. The rest is coming out, so that makes it even at the 5v5 again. And Rageki is onto that McCree now as they try to counter Nadir's Pharah, and it seems to be working. This adaptation seems to have some impact as they stabilize right now.
I mean, this is the key point, the key aspect that Lausanne has to do right now, is to adapt. That is the key word right here, adaptation, because we haven't seen any adaptations the last 2 games, and they're now 2-0 down on the the last map. So better late than never.
Yeah, so we talk adaptation. Lux is also adapting with that McCree of himself. Self-just are coming out from Kiba, but nothing found with it. And Nadir has his barrage ready. Look, he's already trying to find an aggressive angle. Maybe he was a bit too aggressive as he needs to be rest. Axton uses that transcendence to keep people alive. Nadir trades 1-for-1 with Rageki, and it's a 4v4 right now here onto the payload. As Torix reses Pipoyo up on the high ground. We see Lux with that high noon, just uncontested. Look at how much free space he is. He can move freely, but suddenly Lausanne turns over that switch again and goes into aggressive mode and immediately shuts down everyone from Geneva Esports.
This is something that is not on the checklist of Geneva right now. They're saying like Lausanne always has this more passive playstyle. They're gonna play around the shield, they're gonna play around nerfs getting the pick, but they don't have a key counterplay to what Lausanne is doing right now with this aggressive playstyle, and I'm really loving what I'm seeing right here.
And now we need to look out for how Geneva is gonna handle nerfs, because he has a stack wider up on the high ground. B drop coming out to protect Lausanne, maybe a bit too early as we see the self-destruct flying out. No kills with it though. And now nerfs tech-wise was used, but he gets taken out immediately. And look at health. He has his ult up, trying to do his best, trying to find kills and make sure that this team is gonna win the fight, but it looks like he's not gonna be able to, as Lausanne Esports suddenly found their strength, gathered themselves mentally, and denied the first checkpoint even for Geneva Esports. And I have kind of a flashback to GGZ, because that was the last map they have played there against each other. So you think that's the culprit that Lausanne needs to turn around the series?
Yeah, definitely. I think Lausanne right now is in the mindset like, what we usually do is not working out. Let's just go for comfort. Let's just go for a pure counterplay. Let's just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks and use that. And so far it has been working out great for them. I mean, just as I said, Geneva didn't even get the first spot, and this could be the turning point in the series.
So this is how far Lausanne will have to push their own payload right now. And yeah, we see Lausanne is doing some stuff again. I'm not sure exactly how serious this is what they're doing right now, but I've seen them play Bastion before here and there. So you think that's a possibility from their side right now?
I'd really like to see it. It's not something you expect Lausanne to run on offense, so Geneva is definitely not going to expect that. But just as we talked about that, see a Bastion, but on Geneva's side. Actually triple tank and Bastion. Geneva's actually going for a very stationary comp right there. No speed boost from Lucio. No real heroes with any mobility besides Soldier with his sprint ability. But yeah, what do you think about that?
It's also interesting to see like the one who's playing Bastion is not Lux or nor Nadir, who are known for their hit scan, but Neve and Lux is back onto the Rodak, so it's really a curveball. I like it, but I'm not sure if this is gonna be good, because look at Lausanne Esports, they're pretty much doing the same thing. So this is all about shield pressure now, and I think Lausanne is gonna win in that department just simply because they have another shield more. But just as I said, that Kiba gets taken out and needs to be rested immediately, so Let's look at this Bastion warfare right here. Looks just suddenly found Bastion in the back with Rodog, and that's the flanking playstyle you talked about before.
So I don't know if Pipoyo was not confident in his teammates or why he actually didn't stay on the payload, because Kibo went down as Orisa. There was no shield for half a second, so Jafif instantly put up a shield, but at that point Pipoyo was already on the ground and stationary, and that was just a free kill for Lux right there.
Yeah, and I wonder what's gonna happen now. We see it already. Lausanne is adjusting. They're not putting nerfs onto the Pharaoh, but they decide to run Junkrat right here. And yeah, you think that's the change that they need, or is Geneva just too much of a fortress right here to beat?
I'm really not sure if that's the smart answer, the Junkrat, because from the architecture of the map, Geneva has a huge advantage with the Bastion, with the high ground, with the long angles, because you can just put on so much damage on range, but Nerds have to get close up and personal with them if he wants to get some huge impact frags.
And look at the positioning from Geneva. Look how they concave them slowly one by one. You could see Nadir inching up bit by bit on the right side canyon ground there, and they just really concaved the whole team of Lausanne, and I don't think they were prepared for that. And yet again we see Geneva, they're not overcommitting. They're using 2 ultimates and that's about it. They still have nearly 4 ultimates to go, and we're nearly 2 minutes in now, so you think that Lausanne can stabilize now and get that stuff done, as they're really close to pushing? This is some C9 stuff happening nearly. And they have pushed that Bastion ultimate, but they really need to be careful that they don't leave that payload right now, because that's some stuff that happened before. And yet again, they are stabilizing themselves. Only 2 ultimates used again, and I really think that Lausanne needs to come up with something big here. They need a big rip tire or something like that, else they're not gonna make it.
I mean, this is the story of the whole series right now. Geneva is just so much better at adaptation than Lausanne. Lausanne is always one step behind.
We see the big bomb coming out, no kills, and the bongos of war are also used, and it's just one great slaughter from the side of Geneva. Even though the beat drop is being used by Lausanne, it's not enough. They're just completely shredding through all of it, and suddenly it's only 40 seconds left for Lausanne.
Yeah, I really don't get how Neve is doing so much work as the Bastion. I mean, this is like his second tank configuration already, and he's doing so much work. I mean, no Genji, no Tracer, or the Tracer's coming out now from Nerves, but it's too little, too late.
And interesting enough, there, this was like, to me, a fight that looked like lost already, but Lausanne decided to keep going with it, used everything they had instead of getting another clean reset, and now they're left with 5 seconds, and
this is gonna be...
Are they gonna even be able to touch point? I don't think so. As Lux finds the hook onto Raigeki, shuts him down, and this is a rather convincing 3-0 sweep from Servette Geneva Esports, and what this means is that Lausanne Esports takes 3rd place here at Switzerland, and the grand final is gonna be a rematch between SPG Esports and Servette Geneva Esports.
It's really not a result I expected in that fashion. It just shows Geneva was much more prepared, even with their internal struggles, play against Lausanne, and Lausanne just always one step behind, no response. They always thought like on route it seemed like they were running a counter composition to Geneva for Lijiang, saying like, hey, they ran dive tanks on Lijiang, so let's put Raigeki on Reaper. And route is just such an open map. I don't see the impact plays from a Reaper coming out there. Maybe on that high ground a bit, maybe in caves, maybe in gas station, but overall it is an open map, so...
Yeah, and Geneva didn't even give him the chance to have those like places where he's excelling at. This Sombra is not really proficient anymore currently, so there's not going to be those cave plays there in the tunnels, and I don't know, it's not just that Geneva like was better individually. They clearly were in this series, but they were as a team also better. They were smarter. They had a way better approach, and Lausanne just seemed to be stuck on what had worked for them before. But now that it didn't work anymore, they seemed really lost.
I think this loser bracket fight is actually a good continuation to the ZGS qualifier final. You could see a steady progression from Lausanne being the absolute dominating force in the series to slowly turning for Geneva, just reverse sweeping them after being 1-3 down, and then with a very convincing 3-0 sweep. I mean, it is really interesting if you like look at this rivalry from that point on. I mean, Geneva has just figured out Lausanne. They know what they're playing, they know how to counter it, and yeah, I really have to commend them for that.
And this some sort reminds me of the time that Swiss Prime Gaming was like known as the #1 seed in Switzerland, and they were like back then we were really good, but the same thing happened kind of like we were really good and everyone was just starting to analyze our play style, and they were like, huh, you know what, actually they're just doing the same thing over and over again, and we were back then, and suddenly you see Lausanne coming in, bam, they're just abusing it, and that's kind of right now what Servette Geneva did to Lausanne, and teams need to start adjusting faster. They need to start learning that you need to be unpredictable, that you can be a good team. So let's lead this over straight directly into predictions. We're gonna have the big series, a best of 5 coming up between SPG Esports and Servette. And for everyone not knowing how Double L works, SPG Esports is gonna have a 1-0 lead. So all they need to do is win 2 maps. Whilst Servette Geneva, they're gonna have to win 3 maps. So what's your thoughts? Who's gonna take it? Is Lux and Nadir's even fire enough to carry it, or is Bogur just too much of a wall?
It definitely will be an interesting series because they already have played, and Geneva lost 3-0, right?
Yes.
But that was kind of a clown fiesta, as you have already mentioned, because Lux wasn't playing with a proper setup. It was a sudden change because actually Pyronil was supposed to play in that game, and yeah, it is really gonna be interesting to see it. Maybe Geneva already has had time enough to analyze the new SPG roster to see how they can abuse their playstyle, or maybe just SP just such a new raw force that is just gonna waltz through again Servette. But I think that unexpectable aspect from the new SPG roster could be the key factor here. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. Especially like if I think back at it, for example, maps that we see him play. One map was Ilios, a map you barely ever see, but SPG, they seem just really confident on it. We've seen Abaddon playing McCree to really good effort. Like he wasn't as he didn't seem as uncomfortable anymore as he was yesterday or 2 days ago, and they just seem to be really in sync and in the driver's seat. They were knowing what they were doing, and if they can come back with that attitude, with that mindset, and with that performance, that could be a really huge clash between Servette and them, because right now we've seen pretty much the exact same thing happening from Servette towards Lausanne. So who can figure out whom now? My money is, like right now, to be honest, I think Servette can upset this if Lux and Nadir are playing like they played right now.
Yeah, like you have to keep in mind that Lux was part of SPG for a very long time, and he just knows how those people tick, how the people think, and how they play. But maybe that new switch from SPG, that slightly more international style they're going right now, enough to kind of upset Lux in that aspect, because you also have to see there's the flip side on this coin. SPG has played so long with Lux that they absolutely know his plays, that they know what his favorite flanking spots are, how he plays and how he flanks, so this could easily be exploitable by SPG right here.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of like a game we've seen from My Insanity. I think it was SPG vs My Insanity, the show match, where I mean, you could kind of compare Is No Good a bit with Lux, right, with his McCree, and we've seen SPG struggle a bit at first on Horizon, and then suddenly they flipped the switch and they didn't grant Is No Good any more space, and they shot him down immediately when he channeled his high noon and so on. And if they're doing the same to Lux and Nadir, then I don't see any way Servette is gonna win. But Health and Neve were playing so damn well. They were creating so much space. So it's really a hard task. I think it mainly comes down like not only to the DPS themselves, but even more to the tanks, because they're the one who are gonna create space, and especially if we're gonna see some Reinhardt maps, this is gonna be really interesting, because in my opinion, Health and Mimi, they are the best Reinhardts in Switzerland now, and that could be some great mind games there. So hard one to call, but I'd expect that it's not gonna be a 3-0 nonetheless.
Yeah, I totally have to agree with you there. I mean, Mimi and Health are just two of the greatest Ryan players right now, and if you're at such a level, Ryan plays all about the mind games. It's all about figuring out how your enemy thinks, how he ticks, and how you can abuse them for your own profit. So I'm really looking forward to the Ryan battles right here. I'm also looking forward to the off-tank battles. Like, as you mentioned, Neve has done quite good on his off-tank.
Yeah, surely that. I seriously have to hand it over to Bogor there. Like,
Yeah.
ever since he's been on SPG, like, that guy pulls out some insane plays out of nowhere. Like, his diva bombs are executed so well. His Zarya, he always has crowds and search up, and he's just a force to be reckoned with. And I think Servette also needs to look out for him in some sort. Like, sure, he's not gonna be the DPS player, but if he's on that Zarya on that high charge and they don't handle that well, he's gonna get out of control and enable his whole team and gonna shut down Servette. So I think Bogor is gonna overpower Neve, but maybe they can, surprise me on that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I mean, Neve had a great performance before, but I just think, as you said, Bogor has been a real force to be reckoned with. I mean, I've watched the show match and it just seems so convincing and so comfortable in his position and his playstyle. I mean, it's hard to stop him right there. And what I also find really interesting is Servette Geneva can't just say, like, we have to watch out for this player or that player. They have to watch out for the whole team, because at any given time, any player from SPG can just step up and say, hey, I'm just gonna win this battle right here. I mean, Shinoda can just wreck the team with his Genji Blades or his Doomfist or his Junkrat. Abaddon can have a great day, and you can... I mean, you saw what Abaddon can do when he has a good day. I mean, his Tracer's insane if he has the space, if he feels confident, and if he is actually hitting his shots. And yeah, we already talked about Bogor, and so yeah, the whole team is of course to be reckoned with.
So let's round this up before we head into the break, before the grand final. We have one position we pretty much shouldn't talk about it, and those are the supports. And there is quite a focus onto Mercy. We've seen Geneva struggling with Mercy a lot, but to me it looked like AZ improved quite a lot with Mercy compared to the qualifier already. However, on the show match from SPG, Mac John, he seemed outstanding. He seemed to know exactly in what space he needed to be at what given time. So how do you think that matchup is gonna go? Is the SPG supports just a tad bit better and are gonna give more support to the team, or can AZ and Lucio step it up there?
I guess you could look at it from that point that Remix is considerably the best Lucio we have right here in Switzerland. And McJohn, as you said, he looked outstanding on his Mercy, so those two players seem to be really on point on their key roles. And as you mentioned, AZ has improved a lot on his Mercy play. Like, if we compare it to that guest qualifier where he first picked up Mercy, where everybody was surprised, like, the Genji player of Geneva is actually now going for Mercy, and it seems like such a like what was the mindset or the thinking process of Geneva to just put one of the best Genji players of Switzerland onto Mercy? But yeah, he improved a lot, but I don't think it is quite enough to just counter McJohn and Remix here.
I think the main difference, or at least from what we saw, is that SPG most of the time still runs the Lucio, whilst Servette, I didn't see any Lucio anymore from Servette. Exton is pretty much exclusively on Seniara. You think like, or which matchup do you think is favored? Do you think the Lucio is gonna be favored, or do you think that depends on the maps they take, or how is this gonna go?
Yeah, I think it is really situational on what support you're gonna run, but I think Lucio could actually be a very important play a very important role in this matchup because we lose the speed boost, and with Remix being such a good Lucio, Servette could be in for a lot of trouble right here. Especially when we talked about putting pressure on Lux, putting pressure on Nadir. Lucio is a key component on putting pressure on those stationary players. Like if they're playing stationary heroes, so
Yeah, now with that being said, I think we go into a break now. The final is set to be played in like 15 minutes, but I expect there to be some delay, so we can't really give you an estimated time of when it's really going to happen yet. However, just let the stream open and on the side, and you will see when we head into the lobby. As soon as we got a new lobby, you know that we're about to start, and make sure you don't miss it, because this is going to be a huge matchup that we're going to see again on the game show. So without further ado, enjoy your break. We're also going to enjoy it, and see you around in a bit. We're live again. Atlas is joining me once more right to my left, and you can see the lobby is filled up already. And yeah, we're about to have a really, really good series, I think. So Atlas, you sadly didn't see these teams before. We talked about it briefly, so now I want a bold prediction of your side. Something is not working, give me a second. You're muted, I think that's the problem.
So
Perfect, there we go, ladies and
alright,
gentlemen.
sorry for that. I just wanted to say, I think if SPG can just play their game and Servette doesn't know how to adapt to it, I think SPG is the one to take this away. They seem really convincing, but Servette Geneva are just so good at adaptation. We just saw it the last series against Lausanne. They were always one step ahead, so I have to give them credit for that. So I think Servette could actually take this series. Maybe not as convincing as the last one, but nevertheless. But we have to watch out. They are actually one map down, right?
Yes, Lausanne Esports, Servette Geneva Esports will be one map down. So SPG Esports is leading 1-0. They only have to take 2 maps, and it seems like Dorado is the first map that we're gonna end up playing. And without further ado, we're already entering the game. So, your call is 3-2 for Geneva or something like that?
It's really hard to say right now because I haven't seen how they play yet. Well, with the proper setup actually, so. But I'd say Servette are looking very convincing right now, especially after the last series.
So lead us through here a bit. We've seen Servette playing before. They have made some adaptations. I've seen SPG. They have played really outstanding. What do you expect here on the first map, on the first point of Dorado from either teams?
Well, if they're going for a more cookie cutter, meta-styled composition, I'd expect them to just play the standard Dorado play. So, with Servette being the offending team right now, just push up towards Arch, maybe then push up the high ground, which you can see right here, or just try to beat through the Arch and then just pin through the defending team, SPG in this case, just from 2 sides. You could also go maybe Genji or Widowmaker, which is actually a good possibility for Servette Geneva, and just take that sneaky behind spot high ground and pin them from there. So expect that to happen. But we actually see looks on Tracers, it seems, so it's feeling more confident on the Tracer in this case.
And I think we didn't point out the most interesting thing. 80 is not playing Mercy.
Oh yeah, now that you mention it.
And this obviously will be a real big surprise here for SPG Esports, as they just realized now that Servette Geneva is going to have that Genji, and Servette is already denying the high ground of SPG, and they already opened things up with that kill onto Abaddon, who gets rest immediately, but there are going kills back and forth. Look at how deep Servette is going, but also look at how SPG Esport is trying at least to stay together, play around their Reinhardt. Abaddon is playing really up close to that Rhine, and for now it seems to be working out.
Yeah, I really find it interesting what kind of a composition Geneva is playing right here. It seems like everybody's not playing like the most comfortable pick. I mean, we've seen Nadir on Diva. I mean, he has played Diva before, but it doesn't seem like his standard pick at this point.
And just as you say that, he gets demacked by the other Diva being Bogor, and there's still a really aggressive playstyle. And look how McJohn so far evades all the pressure. He's using his shift to jump between targets really well, spacing out really well, and this makes it really hard for Geneva Esports to get a hold of him. And yeah, now we see the Diva stagger happening. And maybe you can touch on the ultimates that are happening right now, because SPG is ready to go.
So SPG is pretty much ready for anything at this point. I mean, there's no need for farming at this point. All ults are up. They can just carefully measure down which ults they have to use, what to commit for an engage.
And the Earthshatter is coming out, followed up by a beat drop from Remix, and that's just all it takes. They're not gonna use all their ults, they missed half of their ults, and they're still good to go, I think. All they really need to watch out for is good positioning versus AC, and the first mix-up is coming already. Lux is back onto Widowmaker.
But this is what I pointed out before. This is something that could actually work pretty well against SPG at this point. If he goes around the right side high ground and puts pressure there, he could potentially find a high impact kill.
And it's interesting, as AD uses Blade, they're positioned so awkwardly from all angles now, at least they're trying to. Rez is coming out from Action, including the Valkyrie, and Shinoda uses his Riptire to good extent, and SPG seems to be really aware of what's happening. They know exactly what Servette Geneva Esports is up to, they know what ults they're gonna use, and they plan accordingly, and I don't know if Geneva is ready for this.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Servette already played this composition against SPG in that fashion, but it just seems like Servette have seen, alright, what we did last series did not work against it, let's try something whole different, but it doesn't seem like the players are quite comfortable on the roles right now.
Yeah, and Halv already gets taken out there as Bogor uses his self-destruct. No kills found though, and Abaddon in the meanwhile with the high noon shuts down AZ, and we're down to 20 seconds, and you know what baffles me a bit is why would Geneva suddenly change it up when it worked so well versus Lausanne? I mean, they could blame Lux being on a bad setup and maybe it would work better, but they don't even give it a try anymore, as it seems.
Maybe they just went with the Lausanne mindset in that case, with the hey, it worked so well against Lausanne to keep adapting, to keep
and there you go.
To be surprised, but
look,
not a chance here.
Look at that setup. That was played so patiently by Mimi there. He knew exactly the only thing that could stop him from destroying the roster of Geneva there was the monkey bubble, so he waited it out patiently and then shattered half of the enemy team. And I think this is gonna be it maybe, unless Neef can get reses, but he does not. And that payload didn't go that far.
This is pretty much a death sentence for Geneva right there, because in any competitive game you watch, if the payload does not leave the arch, I mean, it wasn't close to even touch the first point. If it, or this can barely leaves the arch, this is pretty much GG at this point.
I think they really need to surprise SPG themselves now, else they're just straight up screwed, because
They have to surprise SPG in a fashion that they're still comfortable playing those heroes, because it doesn't seem like, in this case, like AZ didn't seem that comfortable in Genji, to be honest. I mean, he is an outstanding Genji, but how much playtime on Genji did he have in recent times? I'm not sure if he plays him in ranked anymore, or...
I mean, he's most played hero in ranked surely is Genji, and he's like 4.5 KSR with it. Just as you talk about it, they seem to be doing the same thing as you, as AZ is back onto Mercy.
And I wasn't really a fan of Nadir being on the Diva. He is a high impact player, and for a high impact player you need to have a Junkrat in this case for offense maybe, or the Pharah. That would have been something that could have worked, but they did that, opt for the Diva. And I mean, I don't want to be a mean person saying like you can't have that much impact as a Diva, because that's not true. You can have lots of impact as a Diva, but just doesn't quite fit the playstyle of Nadir. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, and you know, if you think of it, I like that they tried out something, but I think that was the wrong game to try it out. They should have tried it out in game 3 if, you know, everything's on the line and nothing worked so far. Then you can get AZ onto that Genji, but now they pretty much put themselves with the back to their walls, and let's see how SPG approaches this now, as Shinoda nearly boops down health off the high ground, and Remix is already on payload GD, whilst his own team It's just pressuring the high ground, forcing Geneva down. And remember, they only need to get to that yellow marker here.
At this point, they don't even have to overcommit to get those high impact frags. They just have to push inch by inch and just play their game.
But looks start things off with a kill onto Shinoda, who gets rest immediately by McJohn, and now the kills are coming back and forth from both sides. AZ can still deny one more kill with the rest, and I think for now Servette has stabilized at first. But you mentioned it, SPG, they can play this patiently. They could farm up for 6 ults and go for one big bang, and if Servette holds that then that's well deserved, obviously. So you think they will go for that, or will they try an aggressive push with Bogur's ult now?
They'll probably try to go for like more pick style oriented gameplay right now. You see Shinoda's up there, trying to get the air superiority, getting those picks. But yeah, at this point, I mean, even if they don't get the kills, they're still farming their ults, and at one point it will still be an advantage for SPG.
Yes, and ultimates are being used almost exclusively from the side of Lausanne Esports so far. But look at Shinoda here. He decides to use his barrage, and it wasn't really to some good use, and now Health just lays down the low with his hammer and makes sure McJohn doesn't res anymore in this fight. And SPG is still going in one by one. Look, they are trying to force a C9 here as Abaddon just starts channeling his high noon. And Geneva really needs to watch out.
Well, I think SPG are just pushing too hard. They're saying, we just need those few more meters, we're almost there, let's just try to trickle in one by one, and this is not how you should play this game. Just farm your ults. I mean, Abaddon just wasted his high noon there. Now he's in Soldier, maybe that's why he wasted it, but it could have been some high impact play right there. And now they have to farm another DPS ult. He's only in 13%, so...
I think Bogur's ultimate here is gonna be really the deciding factor whether they can win or not, because Nave has his ultimate ready, and if the Graton will shut down the whole team of SPG, then there's no way they're gonna win. And you could hear the beat drop coming out. Even it came out, no more beat drop for SPG. That's end, and suddenly it's 1 minute left.
Like, SPG has looked so strong in the beginning phase of their offense push, but now they seem to kind of lost. It's like they really want to force something where they had enough time before the success. Say, let's farm 6 ults, let's just get an advantage, force them to use ults, and then just win with a straight up ult advantage. But right now, they've given away that advantage. Now they have to get those high impact kills.
Earthshatter coming out, the Wiser at the same time. 2 kills for both teams. And McJohn got caught into the Graton. It means no more rests, and now it's all about Bogur and his Diva ult as SPG decides to reset one more time. Important to note though, McJohn died into Graton using his Valkyrie, so both Valkyries are down. Riptide coming out from Nadir. Let's see if it can open things up. Looks really good so far. And getting that Diva mech is huge, because there's no more ultimate for Bogur now.
That was such a smart Riptide right there.
And I think this is gonna end up things like that. Is a tragedy for the side of SPG Esport. This looked like they were going to have it, and suddenly Sir Geneva steps up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to sound mean, but SP just straight up threw that game, because that, I mean, to the credit of Servette Geneva, they had an outstanding defense, but I mean, if you have this situation with the payload being this close to the target and having 3 minutes left, you just want to force the enemy to engage you, to trickle out their ults, so you have an advantage and then just roll them over. But SPG felt confident they could just outsmart them, they just get the picks. We could see Abaddon with his high noon right there. It was probably just to switch out, but I mean, still an ult wasted. And then the Valkyrie in that graph, that was unfortunate. That Riptide onto Bogur's mech, that was also unfortunate. But You could see Servette just adapted so well to what SPG was doing, and yeah, that was really well played.
It felt like to me a bit that like Aspergy was way too in some sort excited, you know, that they were like they were sure that they're gonna win this pretty much, you know, and or I mean we were sure as well, but suddenly it ended up not being like this because of mistakes happening, maybe being too cocky and not being fully focused, doing some stupid stuff out of sync, and it really bit them in their ass. And now we have to see how they approach this, or in sense of how will they fix this? What is their game plan for Numbani, a map that we barely ever seen? So what's important about Numbani?
What's important to note is, like, you could see SPG felt really overconfident on their offense on Dorado because they had such a great defense. I mean, as I said, this was pretty much a death sentence, or should have been a death sentence for Geneva, but it just seems like that this new lineup doesn't quite have the experience under the belt as a unit to quite perform the task which is at hand.
So maybe Walcott through that first point of Numani. This is one of the most like difficult points to capture as an attacker. Why is that so?
So the reason for the difficulty of capturing this point is mainly because of the architecture. Like you can see right here, you have two high grounds that pretty much surround the spot, which is like a cauldron in the center of it, and you have to sort of commit to the high ground to force the defending team away from the spot or towards the spot, but at the same time you still have to have that force on the spot to capture it. And it's really kind of this balance. You have to find out what kind of heroes do you want to play. Do you want to go full dive, or do you just want to go on spot, force the defending team down and just fight from there? So,
and we can see Shinora being on that Pharaoh yet again as Mimi just gets pooped off the high ground. And look at the positioning from Sarah. They're going really far back into the tunnels. They need to be careful though, because there's a Tracer hiding and 2 picks already for both sides. But most importantly, both supports are down for Sarah Geneva, and that means there's no more sustain, and I think this is going to be already the first take. And I honestly don't fully agree with Servette Geneva running into those upper tunnels, because this gives Shinoda just one angle to spam his rocket at and makes him quite easy for him. Do you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, if you're Servette Geneva, you want to spread out on the high ground to have as many angles as possible, because as I said, the high ground surrounds the whole spot, so you can have so many angles that are so great at attacking the offending team. But yeah, they just grouped up into this small space, and that was just a godsend for Shinoda. They could just fire in the charges ult and just get so many picks.
And now we hear the first wildcard being popped as Shinoda uses his barrage from top. Gets 2 kills, but most importantly gets AZ onto that Mercy, and now they're already nearly all people from Servette dead as SPG pushes forward with 3 ultimates ready to go.
That they really look very confident on their push. It doesn't seem like the Dorado seem to affect them that much. I mean, probably still gonna be mad about not being able to what seemed like a done and dusted game to finish it off, but
there we go. Bogur opening things up with that zoning ultimate there, as there is another Diva ult coming up, and MacJohn has to hide. Really smart movement by him there. 1 man up already as Abaddon opens things up with that pulse bomb onto Lux, and still 2 more ultimates coming for the side of SPG Sports. Speed being used. Mimisan still has his primal rage, but I don't think he even needs it, because there are only 3 people left from the side of Servette.
Yeah, again, SPG look so convincing on their offense. They just know how to react. It seems like they learned from their mistakes from Dorado. Just seem like play more as a unit, not to waste ults in that fashion, and to have a more structured game plan. Maybe they're not that tunnel visioning right now as they were on Dorado, and that's really helping them out right here.
We also see Nadir now, the Reaper, a rather known pick for him that he pulls out here, and then But so far it doesn't really help them out. The Pharah is not contested and the tanks are living, but just as I said, and they used the Death Blossom for 3 kills, and this surely will stop this push for now.
Yeah, that was just well played from Nadir right there. He got his ult so fast and just used it to such a great extent, getting 3 picks. So I expect SVG to adapt to this. Maybe not with switches, but to just play around the healers a bit more.
It's really hard for them to go through here from the architecture through that narrow tunnel. Really good for the Reaper. 1 kill from each side. Bogur uses his self-destruct, gets looks and shuts him down completely. Now it's a 3v3, but Nadir wins the duel with Abaddon as there's another self-destruct coming from Neve, taking down Remix, and it looks like Servette will be able to stabilize for now again.
Yeah, as you pointed out, this is just such a great point for Reaper right now. There's so many curvatures, so much verticality you can abuse, and just so much tight spaces you can lure the enemies in or force them into. Just get an easy pick on them, easy drop.
And there's something we haven't seen in a long time. Shinoda is mirroring the Reaper for Nadir as Mimi gets onto Reiner. So let's see how this goes. The only wood to work with is a beat drop, as we hear the first Death Blossom again from Nadir, but this time around no kill. Both Descended Souls for the teams are coming out. Aspergy is trying to push out but doesn't find the ground yet. Yumi is forced back as Nadir, look at Nadir, he's just walking up and finally gets punished for it. Pulse Pump yet again finds looks, and AC has to double rest with Valkyrie. It's still at 6v6. Bogur's ultimate is coming out, but right now Nadir is just doing so much work in the backline. He nearly has his Death Blossom up yet again, and even though he just used it.
It's really interesting that even though Servette won the fight, that Death Blossom from Nadir was very
well, yeah, it was rather weak.
not coordinated.
Yeah,
it seemed like miscommunication.
But I think that's the difference right here we talked about before after the last series. It's the Lucio. Like, a Lucio enables a Reaper so much more than if you don't have a Lucio. Now we need to see what Nadir can do with his Reaper. He still has Death Blossom up, but he's really dropping low and needs some healing right now. And just as I said, he gets the hammer to the face. Big Earth Shatter from Mimi, all the people on the ground, but Nadir uses his Death Blossom, only gets 1 kill and then gets denied by the Diva Matrix. Doesn't matter though, since Surge and New Esports and Nadir can yet again stabilize.
Yeah, Nadir has a very aggressive playstyle on his Reaper, and SPG seems to realize that. They seem to focus him more and more with every push.
Yeah, and we're about 2 minutes left. No more different adaptations coming in as we see SPG approach yet again. 2 ultimates up from their side. First one is being used by Bogur, but look at Lux and Nadir. It's the Lux and Nadir show all over again. Those guys are getting the space they need to work with again, and it creates
really
struggle.
interesting. Just as I mentioned before we started this series, like, Lux was a part for SPG for such a long time, so I actually expected SPG to pay more attention to Lux and its flanking playstyle, but it seems like they kind of forgot about him at that point.
Totally agree, and now we need to look out how SPG is about to handle this, because they really have a hard time figuring out how to work around with it, as Nadir is just tearing apart Shinoda and McChon up there in a 1v2, and that's just exceptional play, making sure that his team yet gets to live for another push, and he's probably gonna take out Mimi as well, and 30 seconds are left and Nadir is on a rampage.
I really want to know what SPG's thinking process was to say, like, let's just go top in this very tight space where Nadir is waiting. There's 2 shotguns. I mean, you could try to overrun him, but it is a really dangerous thing to do. It's way more safe if you just lure him out.
Yeah, and Shinoda tries to adapt as well now, picking up that McCree to probably try and control Nadir and that Reaper, as Mimi does a great job blocking that Diva bomb there, and you see Nadir using his left blossom, and the round is over because there was no one on the card from the side of SPG.
I mean, it was also interesting for the last push, Shinoda actually went for McCree.
Yeah,
not something you see that often actually.
Plus he nearly had his Death Blossom up, so he swapped it away, and to go back onto the 1v2 here, Nadir was pretty much winning a 1v2 versus a pocketed Reaper, so that's something that on theory shouldn't happen, but I guess he had the surprise factor, as you mentioned. Those rooms up here are so close and so well for a Reaper, and he just used them. Now, they nearly pushed through. What's the plan if you're Geneva now? How are you gonna hold this first point that we mentioned before is hard to hold? What do they need to do different from the side, or like what do they need to abuse in the defense of SPG that they can rush through immediately?
So I expect SPG to have a more spread out layout for the first spot, to not do the same mistake as Servette did. So the best plan for Servette at this point is to probably single out a high value target and then get drop on them. So you have to excuse me right here, my Discord just crashed, so excuse me for the silence right now. So as we see, SPG is on the defending side right now. They are on the same high ground as Servette did, all grouped up, so very interesting that they're going for the same setup. It's actually going down already, followed by Abaddon, so they're doing the same mistake as Servette did on their defense, and I'm really not liking what I see right here. Shinoda trying to get the mech, gets it, but Mech John falls to looks. This looks like Servette's spot to take right here.
Yeah, sadly enough, I couldn't get all of this. This is just how LAN life is. There are people coming up to you and asking stuff, but from my perspective, I saw it in purples. It looked like SPG didn't learn from what Geneva went wrong with, and they just did the same mistake, and Nadir and his team could abuse that. So let's see how Nadir is going to use that barrage, if they can snowball the streets phase with it.
And this could be Servette's map to take again, if they just get picked, and it just seems like they're doing it right here.
Yeah, and Shinoda back onto his Genji is obviously trying his best to get as many kills as possible. It's so hard to be impactful as Genji right now with the new Mercy, and you've seen it. He has gotten his team 2 kills, nearly 3, but it didn't matter at all because AZ just denied it completely with the Valkyrie, and now Geneva is onto the push again.
So yeah, we see they're actually switching up the composition. They're actually double hit scan, still staying with the dive tanks though, so...
Yes, Nadir onto that Pharah is really a problem for SPG right now. Beat drop coming out from both sides as the checkpoint is nearly leech with the payload. No kills so far yet. The fight is so spread out left and right, but finally first kill, second kill, third kill now for the side of Geneva Esports. And look at Nadir, he nearly has his barrage up again, but I don't think he even needs it at this point because his rocket accuracy is just outstanding.
Yeah, just as you mentioned, Nadir is doing so much work on the Pharaoh, even with double hit scan on the opposing team. This is just insane to watch.
You think SPG maybe is taking the wrong approach at trying to put so many resources into shutting down that Nadir that it doesn't even matter because the rest of the team will get so much free space since they focus so hard onto Nadir?
They just think that they're trying for a more counterplay approach, and I'm not the biggest fan of just going pure counterplay. You still have to have your own playstyle to really mix it up that well, but it seems that they can stabilize for just a bit longer here.
And we've mentioned before that tunnel is hard to pass, not too well of a part for Farah. If they can push the payload through and get into a more open area, it could work again, but look at them, they're trying to approach at a different angle, they're trying to come from top and are forced down immediately. Ultimates are coming up from both sides. Nadir uses his barrage and looks getting a double kill with that pulse bomb, but look at the kill feed, it just goes back and forth. Rez is coming out, Shinoda uses attack wise but gets killed by Nadir. B-drop from Exxon to save his team, and now I think the numbers are in the advantage of Servette Geneva Esports, but Mimi just denies my statement, looks onto that tracer, and big Earth Shatter coming out, 2 people on the ground, but Mimi can't finish them off because he's taken out right before he can. This looks grim. There are only 3 people left from the side of SPG, and the payload is approaching the yellow circle. They really need to put themselves onto the point so that they don't lose it again, and Remix is the last man alive to save the day as Bogur is so close to his own Diva Bomb. Rocket Barrage yet again from Nadir. The guy has so much impact with that Rocket Barrage, and this is gonna be it. This is gonna be Servette Geneva Esports taking the second map.
Yeah, and with this, Servette Geneva is actually now in the lead. Even though they're coming from the loser brackets being 0-1 down, they're now 2-1 up. And the next map could potentially be the deciding map for Servette Geneva for this grand final.
Yeah, this looks all but like the series that we had earlier this day. It isn't SPG in the driver's seat all the time anymore. It feels like they're just overwhelmed with Nadir, and if you look at it, that was something that is kind of, you know, SPG story versus Lausanne, or in that case now Servette with Nadir. They just had always so much trouble at handling him, and he shows yet again that he's an outstanding player, and they really need to find a way to handle him in addition with looks. So how are they going to do that? Because Hanamura, that's not a map you expect to be picked by teams a lot. So what's the thought process behind this? You think this is SPG's map, or is this Geneva's map in the map balance, or?
Really hard to say, to be honest, because don't really see this map that often, and you see it even less being played by just 2 teams. So usually it is just a silent agreement to just ban all assault maps. It seems like Hanamura just slipped through, so really interesting to see what they go for. I believe a more safe Ryan than Saracom is going to come out from the defending side. So let us see here. So SPG on the defending side, they are going again for double hit scan. I don't know if I can quite agree on that, because as I wanted to point out, on Lumbani, even if they went double hit scan, Nadir still had that huge impact because the hit scans of SVG just didn't have the space to get the kills, get the frags, just put down damage down range, because the tanks played so well from Servette Geneva, putting so much pressure on the hit scans of SVG.
Yeah, and that's what I mentioned before, like they put all their resources into trying to shut down Nadir, and the problem is he still excels, and all the resources pretty much were wasted, and they are not optimal versus the rest of the team from Servette Geneva Esports, and they were just free to work now. And look at Lux, he had a really good day on Widow so far. Let's see if he can up this again. So far uncontested, obviously. Shinoda opened things up, but Lux returns a favor, gets a headshot onto Abaddon, and now he's on an uncontested position, and he can just start landing his shots left, right. Finally is pushed back, and SPG so far is holding their ground right in front of the gate. They know how to rotate and work around that Widow, but Lux is known to find that little time window and abuse it, so let's see if he can find it.
Just like a true sniper, he knows for what to watch out, he knows what time window he needs to look out for to get that perfect shot.
As I swap over to the camera behind the defending team, you see Nadir approaching from the left side. Help on the high ground. They're trying to concave the team again, circle around them. McJohn has already to use his Valkyrie because he was in so much pressure, and look at this, the angles from which Servette is coming in are just ridiculous, and SPG need to have eyes on each side, but so far they seem to be having those eyes on each side and shutting down those approaches.
You can really see that the overconfident plays that they had for Onumbani and Dorados seem to dwindle a bit here. They're really cautious right now because we have to remember SPG is now one map down. This could potentially be the last map, so...
And Lux immediately adapts now by changing his pick to Rodak. We hear Abaddon with that icon and finding himself a kill. It's protected by the beat drop remix, and now we hear his self-destruct coming out. 2 kills, that's huge from Bugur, setting his team up, but Lux in the meanwhile got himself a hook onto McJohn, so this means no more reses from the side of Swiss Prime Gaming, as Abaddon is really struggling right now to hit his shots onto that monkey, a really big target, and he's so low on HP. Let's see if he can get out, and now he's rotating back to the health pack. And Surge Geneva Esport has set foot onto that point. It seems like this is their land now, and they're starting to capture it.
Yeah, and it just looks like SPG is not a team right now. Functions quite well while under pressure. If they're in the driving seat, they look very convincing, but it just seems like they don't quite have that experience and time under their belt. Just stay calm in a high pressure situation. You can see that many people, they just split off. They kind of do their own thing, and that causes for openings for Servette to abuse.
Yeah, and right now we see Servette approaching that second point, going for the high ground with health. Lux pushing everyone off the high ground. They want to make sure SPG doesn't have high ground control, that is forced to fight on point, so there's only one angle for them. Look at that hook from Lux, denying the Deadeye, but Shinoda now on the Reaper doing some great work. And for now it seems like this is a fight in favor of SPG, but kills are coming out from the side of Geneva, right as I say so. However, I think this push is shut down.
Yeah, this could have really went both ways with the picks coming in from both sides, so good to see that Shinoda still stayed on the Reaper, knowing that the situation is under control because he is on 76% for the Death Blossom.
Now we see some adjustment picks again from the side from Geneva. Lenadir is onto the Tracer, whilst Lux is onto the Widowmaker again. Both self-destruct coming out, but only Neve finds a kill onto Abaddon with his own. Gets in out with the rest, but Shinoda is doing some great work right now onto the Reaper, just as mentioned. Big Earthshatter coming out, getting Neve back out of that mech, and now Shinoda has even more space to work with because that Diva is not a thing anymore. And the numbers are back in advantage for the sides of SPG, and they will hold on to this point for now.
And now this is the infamous 2CP phase we're right now. SPG has a very close spawn to the last spot of Hanamura. They're still on a very static composition, but as soon as they see that they're losing control of the spot, they can just switch up to a more stall comp, more stall oriented comp with Trace and May, and yeah, this could be really tough for Servette to just close off the spot. I mean, they don't even have a pick yet.
You see Nadir just taking a pick, they say so. And look at Neve, he's forcing Remix to get back up to point because they're not allowed to lose a tick, and at the same time we have Abaddon with his tactical visor starting to kill some people from Geneva. Res is coming out from AZ onto Lux, and Lux is starting to do some work. He's on the left hand side on your screen. You can see his shots coming in. The angle is perfect for him. And look at Mimi. Mimi is just forced to stay on point, and he's forced to do nothing but use his shield as a insurance pretty much that they don't lose this point. But yet again it feels like SPG has stabilized once more.
It's just as I mentioned, this is Assault map. This is the 2 CP phase we're here right now. So it really has to find that push where they get at least 2 or 3 kills at once in a short time window, or else SPG will just trickle back onto the spots one by one.
Yeah, exactly, and they can't seem to find it so far. Shinoda totally whiffing his Bath Blossom though. There was anticipating more people on the point. We see the wild carry coming out from MacJohn, and MacJohn's movement is just ridiculous. Look at it, he's using the whole space of that second point in Anamura, and again, SPG just looking the tad bit better, and Geneva right now, to me, looks a bit clueless, looks already onto his next hero again, and Nadir also going onto that soldier. They're trying out a whole lot of different things, but also Shinoda is ready to adapt. He's already reading that swap.
Yeah, this is definitely something that SPT is doing a lot better than Lausanne did against Servette in the last series. Lausanne wasn't ready to adapt, but SPG says, hey, if something's not working out, we're definitely gonna switch out, and we're gonna switch out fast.
Yeah, and Nadir got taken out by Shinoda there, so this is number advantage inside of SP, but just as I say that, Shinoda is getting taken out himself, and look at Pogur! That was a really sneaky Diva bomb coming out there, but the Reinhardt battle goes in favor of Helv, and the Shatter was also completely blocked, and Mimi, look at Mimi and Reinhardt, they're just battling it out on the high ground there. High noon from Lux coming out. Let's see if he can find some kills. Pogur is on top of his game, shutting him down yet again. What a great headshot there by Lux. He's uncontested on that high ground, and I talked about it before. Mimi has to stay in the point as some kind of insurance and sometimes do nothing, but Lux is just not having a great day as Pogur is denying him completely.
Yeah, but again, the movement of MacJohn was so on point right there. I mean, he took 3 shots from Lux, pretty much just 1 point of health left, but he cut just the zigzag out of the way from Lux. Stay behind the pillar, regain some health, and this looks like SPG is gonna hold on the second spot without giving away a single tick.
So this is a famous 2 CP story happening right here, and I wonder what Geneva is opting for, because they could potentially go for some cheese right now, right? Because they're in the driving seat in sense of the series, they're leading the series. They can right now, this game is, if they want to risk something, they need to do it now, because afterwards you're in the 2-2, you don't want to risk it necessarily in the last game. So you think they're gonna risk it, or are they gonna go standard?
I think they should actually risk it, even if it could potentially cost the whole series. If you want to show your dominance, show what you really want to, and for all those who are gonna take a shot right now, throw a curveball. This is the point to do it, because SPG didn't do it on Dorado. It came back and bite them in the ass, and now they are behind 1 map and potentially on the final map of the series. So
is this the curveball you were looking for with Nadir onto the Torbjorn?
I want to say yes, but Torbe has been such a prominent defense hero lately in competitive play. But yeah, it's not something you usually see Nadir play, so it'll be really interesting to see how SPG is going to react to this.
And I'm also interested to see how they use the Torbjorn now, because that Hanamura on first point, it's such an open field, and maybe they're trying to set up crossfire with the turret on high ground and lure SPG in, that they like need to fight somewhere where they're not pleased to fight, and the turret can just wreak havoc, or maybe SPG is ready to just dive in and then completely destroy that on the first push, as we see them going back into this game with a dive composition.
The turret placement is also really smart, because he didn't put up a trash turret in that sense, so SPG is only now finding out that Zerd is playing Torbjorn.
Yeah, and you've seen Shinoda struggle there on the right hand side of your screen, because the turret, look at it, it's just focusing him all the time, but somehow Remix found himself the kill on Nadir. He's taken out, and Shinoda adds Health on top of that list, but AZ gets him back as Shinoda falls. And now we have Abaddon being a real pain on the point for Servette Geneva Esports, but he's taken out as well. And it's a back and forth fight, but it really looks like Servette has taken control of the point again.
So there's such a promising push right there, and if they would have gotten the spot, this would have been the time and place to take it, because Servette Geneva didn't have the ults yet to really put down the stronghold on the first spot, and you see Nadir switched out the Torpin for a Tracer.
He surely wanted to get back onto point faster, and now we see the SPG is trying to go onto the point, but they're really scattered again. Like, where's the SPG we just saw in defense, where they're really coordinated and all that? Because right now they went like 3 of them went onto the point, 2 of them were in the middle of this big open area, and someone was off to the side. We really need to see them go into a coordinated and jump one target, because that's how you play dive, right?
You can see that both teams aren't that experienced on Hanamura in a competitive kind of way, because it is just such a tough map to play.
Look at their Shadow from Hell trying to immediately shut down the engage, but I think the Graviton Surge was being eaten up by Bogor on that Diva, and now that's a really good start for SPG to get things rolling, as Mimi adds on top of that Neve, and Bogor gets Exxon on the list of kills, and now Health and Nadir are the only people left for the Servette Esports, and I don't think they're gonna hold on to it, and this means that this map is surely gonna be a draw at least for SPG.
Yeah, I think SPG didn't, no, sorry, Servette didn't get a tick on the second spot, so even if SPG doesn't get to the second spot at all, they can't lose the map right now.
So let's see, Shinoda has his barrage up. If he can find an angle to make it work as they're approaching that point, and he just obliterates few people, 3 people. Bogor adds 2 more people onto the list of that, but it doesn't even matter because there was no one onto the point for Servette, and this means we have a tied series and we're going to Game 5.
And I really like what the SPG did right there. After they got the first, but they immediately knew what to do. They had the ults to just snowball this straight through, because I think if they wouldn't have gotten this spot with this push, they would have had a very hard time, like Servette did on their push.
And now I'm really wondering what the last map is gonna be that they have up their sleeves for us, because we didn't participate in the map draft, and it seems like it's gonna be a rather classic map here with Hollywood being taken. I hope they're gonna take the normal skin though, since I don't think the newer skins are rather competitive, but let's see what they opt for. And yeah, Lux also just mentioned it. Hollywood is like one of the first maps to be explored with many strategies competitively. What do you think are the team's approach going to be? Are we gonna see something different, or are we gonna see like Farah from Shinoda again and the same things from Servette Geneva?
Well, I think Shinoda is definitely gonna opt for the Farah for the first push, and if you see it doesn't work, then we'll immediately switch to maybe a Soldier or even a Reaper. So, like you can see, SPG is ready to adapt. We have seen it in the series. And this is something that Lausanne didn't do, that caused them to fall short in their series, so SPG is doing a lot better in that regard, but let us see. Maybe both teams are going to opt for a more cheesy strat. Maybe Orisa and Torbjorn on defense. So we'll see.
Yeah, also like Widowmaker is not too bad on Hollywood, especially on that second streets phase, so I surely expect that Lux might be picking it up, and we need to see how SPG would start handling this, because there are many roofs to play with for Lux, and if he can just stand the far back on defense, if this replay starts and his team can hold at the arc, at the choke for example, that could be a good setup for give him space and create great pressure. So I'm looking forward for what they have set up for us, because Hollywood is a really versatile map. You have first the capture point, then you have that big open streets phase, and the last phase is more like a narrow King's Row part again, like the last King's Row part. So we should see some different team comps, and let's see if the teams are able to also adapt to the team comps that the other team is offering them.
So as we see right here, SPG is going for more of a standard composition. They're opting for Reaper instead of a more streamlined hitscan like Soldier or McCree. Probably want to get close up and personal with the enemy. Just try to overrun them. So let us see.
Yeah, they're probably like, there's gonna be an interesting thing. When, for example, My Insanity used to play Reaper, what they would do is they would come in from this server room, go to the left side here and rush all the way behind the enemy team to get behind them onto the cafe. Because Reaper, as we mentioned before, works way better in those narrow or close quarter scenarios, and this would be one of those scenarios. So I wonder what the approach and route or pathing from SPG is going to be. At the same time, look at the defense from Servette Geneva Esports.
So I find it interesting that they're actually opting for a Pharaoh defense as well, and do actually have a semi-dive or quasi-dive composition right here with Diva and Winston and Lux on the Tracer to flank.
I think a thing that we didn't really touch on yet is that Exton suddenly is playing Lucio, and this adds on to that speed-based playstyle you mentioned before. I think they realized that versus a team like SPG, they can't afford to be, you know, kind of crippled with Zenyatta and being slow, and thus they changed. And let's see how it works out for them here. Both teams are playing a rather aggressive dive comp. First pick goes in favor of SPG though, but obviously gets denied with the dress, and now we have to see if they can. Oh my god, a big direct hit there from Shinoda, and this surely should be already a favorable fight for SPG. And it's something that had happened a lot of times, if you ask me, that Servette Geneva Esports was often forced to rest the first time, and that's like a 30-second time window where we have a rest advantage. And somehow SPG always found those openings, and it's not over yet though here, because Hell is coming back in. Look at the progress meter. We're at 98% nearly, as SPG is getting overwhelmed suddenly.
This is amazing. Lux getting two amazing picks at the start to open up the spot again. And Servette Geneva just find a way back onto the spot. I mean, look at this, 97.5%.
This was also played so patiently, because Lux on that Tracer, he was just waiting for his team to assemble. He was going for the really risky last moment ditch forward with the 97%. Now we need to see what they do out of it, because they have some ults coming up from both sides. Let's see, rocket barrage come from Nadir, but no kills secured with that, as the sound barrier is just doing too much work. And now we see the rocket barrage come from Shinoda, only gets one kill with it, and then Neve takes him down. But number advantages are yet again in favor of SPG, and let's see if they can make it this time around, or if Lux and his team can make another last moment ditch forward.
And that was really well played from SPG right there. And I think Nadir actually drifted too far behind the corner. He didn't expect to fly that far behind. That's why he couldn't really connect with his barrage. We actually see Lux on the Widowmaker, you know.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I talked about before. Like, if Lux can be on that further back high ground and they can hold here as far up close as they can, this is gonna be huge for the side of Servette Geneva Esports. And they didn't do it exactly right as I said it. They're gonna hold up close. Lux is completely uncontested, finds himself the kill onto Bogur, but somehow at the same time Abaddon and Shinoda also open things up with 2 kills. Lux gets taken out by Shinoda. Now we see a self-destruct coming out, no Kasvad, but Nadir found a kill. I don't think it's gonna be enough unless the rest is gonna save them, and it seems like it does. Servette has taken out enough SPG members that they have to retreat.
So at this point, there's really a decision SPG has to make if they just wanna bunker down and just focus on pushing the payload and just make sure to deny Lux of the free kills, or if they want to just full hard commit on Lux, get him first, and then just fight a 6v5. But I think both situations have their downsides, and Servette Geneva knows that. That's why they're playing this quasi-dive composition right here.
Yeah, we see them taking a different approach. They're trying to avoid Lux as much as possible, both sound pairs being used, but now it's back to the payload because they need to push the payload. And now they have the same old problem again. Lux needs to be pressured, else he can just free shoot on the payload, and we see the monkeys both jumping around, raging around, trying to group the people around, but SPG for now has to retreat yet again.
And this is the point where if Servette Geneva can just assert the dominance with this composition, SPG is gonna have a really hard time.
Yeah, we really need to see how the DPS of SPG are going to use their ults now, as we see Shinoda using his blade, but he gets completely denied as he went for Nadir as his first choice of target. The only kill he's finally getting though is Lux, and Neve returns the favor onto Abaddon with that Diva Bomb, and it's a back and forth still, but SPG now seems to be the ones in the lead.
SPG finally gets some breathing room right here, being able to push the payload further up. Let's see if Lux is actually gonna stay on the Widowmaker. He doesn't have that much space anymore, but he does have Wallhack soon up.
Barrage coming out, and a really crucial run it is, because he finds both supports from Swiss Prime Gaming with that, and that pretty much already seals the deal, because if you lose the supports in the current meta, especially Mercy, you're pretty much bound to lose unless the enemy team gets your Mercy as well.
Supports are such a key factor, just as you mentioned. I mean, if you get a pick on the Mercy, it essentially is a two-man pick, not just a one-man pick, because you are denying a res right there. And yeah.
And somehow Lux overstayed his welcome and gets taken out by Bogur, but backs up both. Sound pair is coming out simultaneously as the self-destruct doesn't connect, but Mimi connects his Tesla gun with Exton and kills him. At the same time, Half takes out Mimi's brother Remix, and this, you see the fight, it's so spread out. They need to go for Lux in the far end, but they also need to make sure the backline is alive, and Abaddon is alive indeed, using his Tech-Wiser to grab the kill onto Exton. Again, the number advantage is in favor of SPG for now, and they are going onto that payload to push it further.
And look at Bogur, he got 3 picks on the payload, and he's just asserting his dominance right here. He's showing what he can do with this little Korean girl right here.
I'm not sure if Servette is even gonna be able to get onto that point, as Lux sneaks himself a kill onto Abaddon, but here we are again. Servette Geneva, the last moment ditch forward, and the time is ticking down, by the way, guys. It's 1 second left. This is do or die time for SPG. This is to set a good record that Servette will have to beat afterwards, and the record seems to be sealed right here, as Bogur is the only one left with McJohn onto that mini diva. The two import players for SPG are trying their best to win that fight, but they're not able to, and this is not the best performance we've seen from SPG on Hollywood.
Definitely, I think you can really see that they are feeling the pressure right now. They were really confident going into the series to do 1-0 starts, but then they lost the consecutive 2 maps after that, potentially losing this map without winning a single game. So
they won 1 game, right? The series is tied right now, so they won 1 game.
Yeah, I mean, before on Hanamura, if they would have lost this map,
obviously
they would have lost the series without a single game under the belt.
And this is something like this part where they need to get. The street phase kind of reminds me like Watchpoint Gibraltar in the hunger phase. You either snowball it through or you struggle really hard like SPG just did. And well, how do you think is Servette gonna achieve that snowball? Are they just gonna stick with Lux and Widow and count on him making the frags, or What is their plan to win this map now?
I really expect them to go for a composition that it is viable to take the first spot in a convincing fashion, but then is also able just instantly contest high ground for the street phase to just deny any strat from SPG to get high ground control, or just force SPG to stay on the ground, corner them in for both high grounds and the lower ground on the payload.
And talking about high ground control, it seems like they have exactly what it needs to control a high ground on the second part. It's gonna be interesting how this works out on first point, because SPG is trying to have a really flex comp. They have Abaddon and Reaper to make sure that they have tanks under control, but at the same time Shinoda is onto the soldier, because they surely expect a Pharaoh here, right? And I really wonder how this works out, because Nadir has pretty much the air control and Lux is probably trying to get the ground control, so let's see what they can do with it. And Health already jumping in with Exton together onto that point. Bogur is demacked as Health gets taken out, and AZ obviously coming in for that rest, but look at the way that SPG is holding it. They're trying to hold it onto the point with that Reaper, and Abaddon is just not finding the pressure he needs to as he gets outmatched by Lux. Lux really had a good approach here. He came from behind from Cafe and just found the angle he needed to.
Yeah, this could be the deciding factor right now. You see, we have a Monkey, we have a Pharah on the offending team. They could easily take the high ground. Abaddon switched out the Reaper for a Tracer. And it does look like SPG is in position to take control of high ground. They're gonna definitely contest it, but is it gonna be enough? Because
sneaky Lux is onto the high ground, finds the sticky pulse bomb, but it's not enough to find a kill, sadly. But look at Nadir, he has his ultimate ready as well. The DPS players of Servette and Evo Esports are really on point right now. The barrage coming out takes out Shinoda, but that's about it. At the same time though, Lux takes out Mimi7, his former teammate, and now Servette seems like they know exactly how to play this part of the map, and they're starting to roll over SPG.
yeah, look at the ult advantage of Servette Geneva right now. They have both tank ults up, they have Valkyrie. Also coming up soon for SPG, they also have 2 ults now.
What does SPG need to do to stabilize here though? Because Shinoda is immediately getting taken out by Health now, and they don't seem like they have a plan set up on how to approach this point.
What I just wanted to say is, just be patient. Doesn't matter how close the payload gets, just go in as a death bomb, not get picked by anybody, but just as you mentioned, Shinoda got instantly picked right there, and this is not
both self-destructs coming out, the Diva's taken out, the one and another. Techwiser is coming up, Shinoda here, he's finding damage, but he's not securing kills. Finally gets that kill onto Half. Abaddon killed Exton in the meanwhile, but AC coming in with that double res to be the hero that Servette needs, and Nadir at the same time is raining justice from out, but look at Bogur. He's just flying straight into his face and denying the barrage.
Yeah, even though Bogur is in the bigger hero right now, he definitely wants to show he has air superiority right there, even if he can't stay in the air for as long as Nadir with his Pharaoh.
Now we also see Lux opting for the Banana McCree, since he didn't feel too comfortable anymore on Tracer in that part as it seems, and let's see how Servette is gonna play around that new composition, because they really need to find a way to break through now, because SPG has been stabilizing for now. And look at Bogur, he really has air superiority, taking out Nadir, and the other one takes out Health, so this is gonna shut down the push for now on the side of Servette.
Yeah, it's important to point out here, this is now a hybrid map. There is no draw on this map. We will go away from this map with a winner and a loser. This is the final map right here.
I mean, technically speaking, it could draw, but I never saw that happening, right?
Even a possibility. I mean, it's even programmed in that fashion.
Yeah, I don't even know, but let's just go with it that it's not possible. And Lux is ready to use his high noon, and you see him on the left side making sure that he has enough space, but Abaddon is trying to deny him that space. You see the battle here on your screen. Lux has fallen really low. But for now, he stays alive as Shinoda uses his visor to take down AZ, and Exton falls yet again. The supports for... As soon as the supports for Geneva fall, that's always when SPG wins, and those are the fights they win when they can get a grasp of taking out the supports. But else, we've seen Servette taking the fight. So you think Servette can finally push through, or is Nadir with the Reaper not going to be enough to finish the map?
So SPG look really confident again right now. When they're in the driving seat, they stabilize, they manage to see what Servette is going for, but I don't know if they're gonna expect the Reaper right here. This could be the deciding factor.
And look at Nadir, he's already in the back of the team and finding the close corner we've talked about before. He's again behind enemy lines, just trying to play around that corner there, and look at Health also helping him out with the Monkey Rage. He's trying to boop targets into Nadir, and Nadir found himself McJohn. This means no more rest from the side of SPG. This could be crucial for this fight coming up, as AC has his wall carry up and going, and I think SPG is about to lose this map because Mimi 7 is the only one left, and Bogur comes back, obviously touches the payload. They don't want to lose control over the payload. McJohn falls again, and look at Nadir. His Reaper is working out. He's making the work happen, and I don't think Shinoda is going to be enough with the visor, and with 1 minute left, SPG Esports is getting taken out by Servette Geneva Esports. We can hear them from the other side of the venue here as they take out SPG, take that series 3-2 and become winner of Switzerland 2K17.
Yeah, that was, just as I pointed out before, Nadir on that Reaper. SPG was not ready for him. He did go pretty low on the push, but SPG thought like he will go back all the way. Nadir smartly just got the health tech, pushed back in and got 2 picks, waited for his team to follow up, got amazing picks with his Death Blossom. That secured the win for Servette Geneva right there.
Yeah, and I mean, if we look at those cards, I mean, they're not too accurate, but they kind of show what's up. Nadir showing up at the same time. Bogur has like 64% on this match on fire, so he's the MVP for them. And this kind of went how we expected, you know, in sense of who's gonna be the enabler for each team. But the score was like, I think the score was just so hard to predict because both teams are great, but we've seen Lux play outstandingly on the first 2 maps or 3 with Nadir together. Lux went a bit down. He had some picks with Widow, but Nadir just showed up huge in the last map and put the rest of the weight on his back, and now they can call themselves winner of Switzerland. And this just leads to SPG still not being able to beat Servette. Yet they're getting closer, but they haven't beaten them yet. And now looking forward to Zurich Game Show, where you'll be as analyst as well. What is the next step for SPG? They have one week of preparation left. They're gonna play exactly against this lineup that they've played here. Lux is gonna be there on stage as well. What is SPG's preparation for Zurich Game Show that they can finally take down Servette Geneva?
I think the most important aspect Swiss Family Gaming has to look at right now is communication, team play and shot calling, because that last fight, in my opinion, was just lost because of bad communication. Reaper went low, he went back into Saloon, and I mean, Servette did a great effort of putting pressure on the main force of SPG to make sure Nadir could get out safely, but as you could see, nobody was paying attention to the Reaper, and the one who did fell down, probably didn't call out or call out too late, because then, by that point, Nadir got a second pick, and then it just fell out of control of SPG at that point. And I think they have the raw skill, they have the potential to be one of the best teams, if not the best team of Switzerland, but they just need to work on their communication, that shot calling. If they can just finesse their game, their team play right there, this would be a great team to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think we also saw that in the communication of, you know, the between tanks and DPS from the side of SPG, that it wasn't on point yet. The fights that they won, they created so much space together for the DPS and shut down the space from the side of Servette Geneva, so Lux and Nadir couldn't shine anymore. But they're just too inconsistent with that yet, and especially when you're up against an enemy like Servette, they're gonna abuse those mistakes. They're gonna punish you for that, and they did, and they did it in a really good fashion. And I think I'm really looking forward to that best of 5 we're gonna have in Zurich. Now, let's jump to that best of 5. You think that SPG will get their stuff together, will practice enough this week, and will pull together so that they can overcome Servette, or is it too much for them?
But it really depends. Excuse me. It really depends how they're going to approach the following week. If they're just going to say, "Hey, we're going to take a break after Switzerland. We're just going to like cool down a bit, maybe do some scrims, do some practice," or they're going to go balls to the wall, say every day we're going to just work on it, work until our fingers are bleeding, until we know how we're going to counter Servette Geneva. But I think like they're definitely going to do an effort into how to work out the cranks in their communications, how to improve their team play, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really going to think it's going to be a closer series than it is today, and that's saying a lot because we were on the last map.
Yeah, and I think something worth mentioning is that the international players for the side of SPG, they're staying in Switzerland until the end of the week, obviously, until the tournament is over. They're at Brian's Mansion, so to say, and I wonder how this influences their practicing schedule, if they can even practice computers and so on, or how they're gonna practice, if that leads to them even more practicing because they're here anyways. And it's something we need to look out for, because Mac John and Bogur, they have really performed well. We talked about it. Mac John's positioning was amazing. He knew exactly how to work around looks at many times, but sometimes he got caught off guard by the setup from Geneva, and he couldn't do much about that. And at the same time, we have Bogur. You've talked about him. He found himself often some kills on the payload and stayed there, made sure that's not gonna move. And it's interesting to see how SPG works on from now, and if they improve or not. Now, with that being said, I think that's about it for us. We are about to start heading off here from Switzerland. It was an amazing event, was amazing best of series here, and looking forward to every one of you to seeing you at Zurich Game Show. Thank you again, Atlas, for casting with me. It was a pleasure, and
yeah, thank you for having me. It was
yeah,
great fun.
And see you guys, everyone, in Zurich next week and next Sunday. Bring the hype and bring the fun. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.